Someone at ESPN has ranked the Georgia quarterback room in the top 5 future quarterback rooms. I think that means, not just this season, but the next couple of seasons of college football. He has Adam Rittenberg, senior writer for ESPN, has Georgia ranked at number 4 as far as future quarterback rooms. Had him ranked at, I guess this is something he does annually, had him ranked at number 5 last year. He has Georgia's quarterback future. I don't know what he means by this. I guess he's encompassing the next 3-4 years, including 2023. So is USC 1, Ohio State 2, Oklahoma at 3, Georgia at 4, and Alabama at 5, Michigan 6, Texas 7, Tennessee 8, Florida State 9, Oregon 10. That's his top 10. If it goes further, it goes further, but I don't think we care too much about who he has in some of his lists. Look, these are projection type of lists, right? I do think Georgia's quarterback room is really, really good. I agree. It's hard to argue with him having USC's quarterback room as number 1 when you consider Caleb Williams being the returning starter and the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and you have Malachi Nelson in the background, right? He's the number one guy, number 1 QB. What's the quarterback high school football player? Whatever. He's a top 3 quarterback. And so you have Caleb Williams and a top 3 guy behind you. Well, you got Arch Manning. None of these websites have similar, none of the rankings are the same. So I don't know who you like to go off of. I look at both ESPN 24/7. 24/7's website when it comes to the rankings is way easier to navigate. It's way prettier to look at. But so for Georgia, and when he says future, what do you deal with Georgia's future? On the current staff, you've got, in the current room, Carson Beck, Brock Vandergriff, Gunnar Stockton. Future, Ryan Puglisi, someone that Matt DeBerry's all over that recruitment for Georgia, our recruiting reporter, Matt DeBerry. Make sure you're going to dogpost.com for all of your updates regarding not just Georgia football, but recruiting, all of that. Not everything can be spoken on here. Ryan Curley from Dog Post. Make sure you're checking out. I don't have any physical things with me, but make sure you're checking out Double Dogs. There's links for Double Dogs, Red Zone, DoorDash. All that stuff is down below in the description. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you have not. We appreciate all of you guys. We really do. So this is what he said. This is what he said for Georgia. And this is true. I agree with his first couple of sentences for sure. Here's what he says. This is what Rittenberg says. The following sentence would have seemed improbable 3 years ago, but is undeniably true. Georgia will really miss Stetson Bennett. The former walk-on leaves Georgia with a legacy after guiding the team to consecutive national titles when the Bulldogs had gone more than 40 years without one. Now Georgia must replace Bennett and talented offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Mike Bobo, who served as the Bulldogs OC from 07 to 14, was an analyst last fall, will take over the offense again. Bobo had success with past Georgia guys, Aaron Murray, Matthew Stafford, blah, blah, blah. But Monken put the team over the top. Carson Beck enters his 4th year in the program after serving as Bennett's long-term backup. The former ESPN 300 recruit looks sharp in limited action in 2022, completing 70, just the boring stats on. He will have to fend off Brock Vandergriff, ESPN's number 6 pocket passer from the 21 class, who has just 2 pass attempts in his college career. Georgia signed a 2022 quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, but did not take one in its 2023 class, opening up the likelihood of a transfer addition if Beck and the others aren't making it. When did this list come out? Last week. I don't expect a transfer from any of these guys. I just don't. I think that for a while, I thought it was possible that Carson Beck would transfer, but we're talking about a year ago. Right? I thought that Carson Beck was a transfer candidate 100% last offseason, and he chose to stay. He chose to stay. I think that probably meant that he had a shot to beat out Stetson, but Stetson wasn't going to come back if he was not the guy, right? Stetson wasn't going to come back if he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback, and so Carson does. I think that it's interesting, this room. It's versatile. I mean, someone said the other day, I believe it was I don't remember who it was, but a Georgia player the other day was talking about their arms and said Carson Beck and Gunnar Stockton had the strongest arms, which I think that the notion around these quarterbacks has been that Brock Vandergriff has the strongest arm. And, if it's Carson Beck, I think he's going to be the starter, right? I mean, that's just where we're at. I think he'll be the starter. I think he's just too far ahead. Now, I don't know the details of the battle, right? I mean, I know what I see. I know what I hear. I know what I know. And I know Carson Beck is the most polished of the three guys and has been there the longest. And if he has the strongest arm, then it's hard to argue that. He's definitely the most accurate of the three guys so far in their careers. I think Brock Vandergriff has struggled with accuracy a little bit. Now, it always sounds like I'm a hater for some of these players. I think when it comes to the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm a realist. That's the way I'd like to put it. I'm pretty realistic about my expectations for them and the players, and I feel like, it probably sounds like I'm a cheerleader sometimes. Being realistic about Georgia the last couple of years has been realizing how good they are and that they should be beating everyone, right? Realizing how good there aren't a lot of bad things to say about on-field stuff when it comes to the Georgia Bulldogs right now, and I just think it's Carson for now. I think he'll have a good year as a starting quarterback. I just think he'll win the job. But as far as future goes, you get Ryan Puglisi. I know that, what is the guy's name? They didn't get a 23 quarterback, but another guy in the 24 class that they're super interested in, and he's like a top 5 guy, and I can't remember his name. Dylan Raiola, that's his name, right? They're in the mix for Dylan Raiola, so I think as far as the Georgia's future quarterback situation goes, they're in a good spot. You do miss Stetson Bennett. It's hard to. I think they're going to miss him. They're going to miss his experience. They're going to miss his willingness to stick around and stick it out. They'll miss that leadership aspect of it. And I think you'll miss his mobility and his playmaking. It improved so much over the course of his college career. That was extremely long, but it improved. And it should when you have good coaches and talent, right? Hard to argue. USC at 1. Ohio State at 2 is one that I don't know a lot about. Kyle McCord is kind of the presumed starter this year. They have, Dylan Raiola, the guy that Georgia's interested in, a top quarterback from the 24 class. He's like the number 1 overall recruit, I think, according to ESPN. He decommitted from Ohio State, so it's kind of up in the air on where he's gonna go, and I don't know a lot about that. I don't know the answer. Oklahoma, they've got guys. Listen, all these places, Alabama at 6 or 5 was interesting because I don't think Jalen Milroe is that good. I just don't. I think, he's a good athlete, but I just don't think he's a great quarterback. It's the way I felt about Anthony Richardson. I feel differently about them, but it's the way I feel about Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is the most physically impressive quarterback I've ever watched. But I also think he's a bad quarterback, right? So those things can both be true. Maybe an NFL team develops him and he's a superstar in the league. That totally can happen. He could also be a huge bust. At the end of the day, we don't really know. We have projections. I project Anthony Richardson not to be that good because I think he's going to be forced to do things that he's just not that good at as a quarterback unless you build an offense around him, right? It's different. But he was not Anthony Richardson. Listen, I was wrong about Jalen Hurts. Lamar Jackson I thought was going to be really good, but I was wrong about Jalen Hurts. Here's the difference. Jalen Hurts is a pretty good quarterback, all right? He's a good decision maker. He developed a lot over his college career. Anthony Richardson hasn't had that development period. This video's gone off the rails, but Georgia's quarterback room is in a good place, and I think that it's landing on these. It didn't used to land on these lists, right? Obviously, when you had Justin Fields and Jacob Eason and guys like that back then, it landed on these lists, but people weren't saying that the last couple of years with being Stetson. Now you've built this room with a lot of talented guys who have not played a lot of snaps, right? But they have been in the program, and so it'll be interesting. But I think I'd put it over Oklahoma. I just would. I think I would. I think I would put Georgia over Oklahoma. I'm just looking through this. Dylan Gabriel, longtime starter. I thought he was underwhelming last season. I thought he was going to play better than he did. I thought Oklahoma was going to be better than they were. So I'd put Georgia in that 2-3 range, to be honest with you. I mean, Alabama doesn't have some illustrious recruit coming in. I know that Tennessee's in an okay situation with Nico Iamaleava, but I'm just looking down this list right now as I think Georgia's up there. I would argue you'd put him higher, right? I argue you'd put him in that top 3 as far as quarterback rooms and the future of their quarterback rooms. I would put Georgia higher than 4 because I think that there's a little bit more certainty with it. I'd argue there's more certainty than Ohio State. And, oh, man. And my group chat with Stetson and Kirby is just blowing up. But I think that their room is better. Like, if you just look at it top to bottom, Kyle McCord is good. But other than that, they don't have a guy that was that big of a deal. I mean, Devin Brown, but, you don't hear much about Devin Brown. Is he making noise? This Lincoln guy, I don't know who these guys are. I know the Georgia, obviously I should know the Georgia guys, but these were also guys that were just dudes in high school. I can't say that about this one guy, but I think USC is clearly the one. Just you have 2 number 1 quarterbacks on your roster right now heading into this year, and you have a top 40 guy as well in Miller Moss. It's clearly the one, and I'd put Georgia at 2, to be honest with you. I don't think that's crazy to say. What do you think? Leave your comments below. All those links are down below. Ryan Curley from Dog Post. Thank you for watching.